Given that our time is limited, you've already mentioned participative design or participative methods, and that there isn't that there isn't enough of that in with regard to involving older persons. What do you think could be done? Well, everybody knows, or most people know in the field, that you have to involve the users in order to make a product not only usable but also marketable. But how can this be put into reality in very pragmatic ways?
I know that I talked to an expert to you on this topic. My vision here is that we have to overcome that limited understanding of usability labs, where the users, when they are involved, they should normally only test and we and survey them or video them. But to come to a what I see under my understanding of citizen science, so a really transdisciplinary cooperation on equal basis. So the seniors should have an equal say in the research process, and this needs different methods. Of course, not only it mustn't be so short. You need several days. I have very good experiences with senior groups selected at random, so sortition-based, that they can then get the role to think what's best for everyone. That is the role we hand over to these groups. We pay them, so we do not only invite them and give a little compensation, but we pay them for these maybe a week or two, and treat them as colleagues, or even as bodies for decision making. So that means the information has to be controversial information from all sides, and then the citizens deliberate the elderlies like a jury at court and come to a decision. I call this, as you know, citizens juries, and the German word is a planning cell. But for development of senior applied technologies, especially when there is a controversial discussion, these tools are very helpful. So when you have to decide between different alternatives, and then these informed groups of elderlies can make a, let's say, consultative decision. That is much more than in a usability lab or so, where we only ask them to use a cup and we film them.
Well, I have one issue to raise regarding that, and one question. The issue would be, ordinarily, no matter how you involve other persons, you almost always get a bias, because there's just no in quantitative terms to randomly stratify such samples. That would be the issue, and the question would be, if people think about participatory methods, basically two ways. One's focus groups, and the other ones, as you already mentioned, observations, such as in usability labs. Would you see any extensions or variations of these two methods?
Yeah.
I'm afraid, excuse me, we might be disconnected in less than 2 or 3 minutes. So if we disconnect, could you please come back and try to reconnect?
Okay. But let me quickly try to answer that question. So,
okay.
and my answer is a little more psychological answer, and I speak to a psychologist. That is, I think we hand out roles to the participating seniors, and these roles can be quite different. For instance, in stakeholder participation, the role is that they should defend their special interest and their special perspective as stakeholder, while in random selected processes, the role is quite different. Normally they should identify general interest, what's best for all, even against their personal interest, and they do it because it is an attractive role. So when you hand out a certain role, people jump into that role and then they play the role, let's say, like in theater. And so in these random selection processes, you get a quite different, let's say, consultation than in stakeholder processes. And I'm very much in favor of random selected processes because the results have, I think, a broader legitimation.
That puts lots of demands on part of the participant.
Of course, we need time, and they have to be informed. Both sides. The Latin term is audire altera pars. So listen to the other, to the opposite opinion too, and then that's what here Hegel is Berlin professor of the 19th century. Friedrich Hegel says that learning the truth, approaching the truth by deliberation. Yeah, that is what he called the dialectic method. So thesis, antithesis, and then you come to a synthesis. You only come to a new, better understanding, the synthesis, if you have different opinions in the room which deliberate, which really where the opinions clash against each other, and so thesis and antithesis is necessary to come to a synthesis, and that's what should happen in a good deliberative process. In the field of democracy research, I have some Korean contacts, and of course Taiwanese and Japanese contacts, as the three countries work more closely together to develop deliberative processes now. So what's the development in Korea is really fascinating. I'm quite impressed, also in many ways impressed by your country.
So your partner in Korea, in which field are they working in this democracy research area?
Yeah, they are mostly political scientists, or working even in the even closer to politics in the Prime Minister's President's office. So deliberative tools. I can send you an email after our discussion about my my Korean contacts.
Okay, yeah, because in gerontology field in Korea, we also have the living lab model. The living lab approach is becoming more getting more attention in Korea. So they are starting to have what's called the senior living lab, where they have these older people participate in the process of developing these different products, as you mentioned.
But aren't they in the living labs often, let's say, only like actors on stage, filmed and interviewed, but not really participating on an equal basis? One has at least some of, for instance, the living lab of my colleague, a famous colleague, Sahin Al-Bayrak. He is a professor at my university, and he has a model flat for senior applied technologies. And this is not an equal, let's say, an opportunity for equal participation for seniors. They are invited to give the lab to use the appliances, and then they are filmed by the young researchers, and then they develop the new technology. So that's not what I would. That's not my understanding of citizen science. It's not bad, but it is not enough.
Right. So I think it's really inspiring for me to hear you talk about this perspective of getting more older people get involved, and also do. sort of age impact assessment of these government policies on different projects that they have. Even in Korea, we have lots of money being spent for new startups and social economy, enterprises and things like that. So I think it's a good point that to keep in mind to become more advocate of these the older group to participate, have more voice in this decision making process.
How close is your collaboration with Japan then? Because Japan is, let's say, an even more closed society, I would say, compared to Korea, and so the necessity to hand out a new role to seniors is even bigger in Japan. So they have this now working people with 72, but nevertheless working in companies and so, yeah. I think that is still a little bit different in Korea, or because you are not as the demographic change is not as rapid and quick as in Japan.
Yeah, the speed of aging is quicker than Japan, but the percentage of the older people in Korea is about half. So we are just over 14% now, but Japan it's almost 28. So compared to Japan, we are quite young.
Already conversed for over half an hour. Maybe we should come to an end, and those that aren't with us but will be watching later will, I trust, very much be interested in how Professor Dienel views the technological advancements in Germany as related to aging. I mean, in Korea or worldwide, everybody's familiar with the big names like Bosch or Siemens, or then the famous car makers like Volkswagen or Audi or Mercedes. So maybe you would like to say something about what you see as the eminent developments in Germany regarding technology and aging, and how and why you would arrive at particular positive or negative judgments.
So let me first say that German technology often in let's say technological terms comes second to other countries. So as Germany is a little bit more skeptical as a country against new technologies, compared, for instance, to France, which is a very techno-enthusiastic country. In Germany, the industry is a little bit, from a very competent perspective, critical, and sees what others do and then goes in a little bit later. You can see this, for instance, in electromobility, where France clearly was ahead, or let's say Japan, CNC machines in the 1970s, 80s. Concorde, of course, was built in France. If I only compared with France, TGV was 10 years earlier than ICE, that is the German high-speed train. But at the end of the day, the Germans roll up the market from behind. They come second, and then they do it better. And this is a, let's say, slow, a little bit skeptic, but very competent perspective. And then you mentioned the big companies, but Germany, the strength of German technology comes very much with so-called mid-size, family-owned countries, which are hidden champions in one special field. So they think about very special usages, and for instance, devices to harvest oranges or so. Yeah, so these machines which cut trouts and not salmons or so, because trouts, that is a fish, is cut in a little bit different way than salmons. So this normally comes always from Germany. And as the production goes from mass production back to more individual production with n equal 1, so every product looks a little bit different, 3D printer, so yeah, this is a technology which very much supports this interest in specialized production, which is so typical for German industry. And so we are, let's say, we are leaving we leave it since decades, but leaving the Fordistic production, mass production, but we are approaching individual tailored production, like the tailor who tailors my suit in, let's say, pre-industrial times. And now we come back to this, but with very modern, of course, technologies like, for instance, 3D printing. And this is very good for senior applied technology because it looks for specialized, tailored solution at the end for every client, a little bit different. Yeah? And of course, this goes back sometimes to regionalized production. And of course, the boom of medical technologies which support independent living, it's an ever-growing branch, industrial branch now since many years. So these trends support the typical layout and structure of a German industry.
Yeah, given the time, I think we should come to an end. And since you've been invited by us, maybe, well, it's not a traditional closing, but maybe there are some words you'd like to direct to us, or maybe also questions that you have regarding the various topics that we've touched on.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. As you know, Sunkyo, that senior applied technologies play a certain role at my university in Berlin. I would like to now deepen this contact of today, exchange emails, maybe articles, maybe come even to joint research projects. I see a certain closeness between Korea and Germany, not only because you are still a divided country, South and North Korea. We were a divided country, but for many other reasons, to, I think, a closer collaboration between Korean and German universities is very desirable.
Yes, of course, we'd welcome this very much as well. And any closing words from you, Professor Park?
Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And it really was inspiring for me to listen to your talk. And I definitely hope that we can keep in touch and develop our relationship further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then we are formally done. We can still chit-chat if you've got time and if there's anything else on your mind. So you don't have any appointments following now?
I have another appointment now. It is now, so I'm going to the next telco right now. But I thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to deepen our contact then soon. And of course, the trust relation between the two of us, Sunkyo, I think, is, let's say, very helpful in this respect. So thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.